Hello, this is Trevor Crow with Trevor and Friends, and sitting next to me is our Senator Dick Blumenthal. Thank you so much for being with us. How are you today?
I am great. Thanks for having me, Trevor.
Awesome. Now, happy Thanksgiving. Let's start with that. What are you going to be doing for the Thanksgiving holiday?
We are having a select group of
Uh-huh.
family members to our
Mm-hmm.
house,
Uh-huh.
namely all of our immediate family,
Uh-huh.
and which is mostly our children. And it'll be a great time, as it will be for so many families around Connecticut.
Oh my goodness. I do love this time of year. And yes, I do eat a whole lot of turkey. But is that what, 10 people, 20 people? Do you have just a huge household full of people coming in?
Well, we're not sure as we speak of all of the attendees, but we have plenty
Uh-huh.
of room at the table.
I love that. I love that. Now, I first want to start and say thank you, Senator Blumenthal, for your service over time.
Thank you.
I'm not sure most people understand just how wide ranging it is, how deep it is. It goes way back. You served as Attorney General. You fought, oh my God, it goes on and on. I got to start at the top. It was criminals, it was organized
Well, I was the
crime.
United States Attorney, the chief
Yep.
federal prosecutor
Uh
for
huh.
Connecticut. Then I was in the state legislature
Uh huh. And you fought monopolies, I believe Microsoft in the early
when
2000s.
I was Attorney General. We
Uh
went
huh.
after the tobacco industry and we fought monopolies like Microsoft. And then I became a U.S. Senator after 20 years, believe it or not, as Attorney General. One of my children, when she was very
20.
young, asked me whether I was going to be the eternal general.
The eternal attorney general. So you've served in the House of Representatives, the state Senate, attorney general, and as senator now since 2011. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, my goodness. And okay, so I want to move into some of very important topics right now because there's so many things happening as we speak. In fact, a judge threw out today the criminal indictment of James Comey and Letitia James. Did you notice that on the news yet today?
I noticed it very immediately when it
Mm-hmm.
happened,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the kind of sweeping remedy that happens when a prosecutor overreaches
Yeah.
and does an illegal prosecution.
Thank goodness, because we just on the heels of that, I saw that the DOJ has announced that it is going to be investigating Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly now.
Mark Kelly is a former astronaut, as you know, but also
Hmm.
a Navy captain. I believe was his rank when he retired. He's flown in combat. He has been an extraordinary colleague in the United States Senate. I
Hmm.
have no idea what they are investigating, but I think it will go nowhere.
I cannot believe this whole problem here of the DOJ retaliating on Trump's behalf, and hopefully this will be putting a stop to it. Now, you were the classmate of a few people that are important in some of the stories coming up that we'll be discussing. Clarence Thomas, for example, because some of this is going to get kicked up to the Supreme Court. So, any thoughts on Clarence Thomas and even the Supreme Court at this moment?
Well, I was a law clerk to a Supreme Court justice,
Mm-hmm.
Justice Blackmun, and I knew members of the Supreme Court then. Clarence Thomas was not among them. I think that unfortunately the Supreme Court has lost a lot of its credibility with the American public because it has become so politicized. It seems to be
Unbelievably.
ruling based on politics more than law. And the same is true, by the way, of the Department of Justice. These prosecutions against Comey and
James, yeah.
James have been thrown out because essentially Donald Trump is using the Department of Justice to go after his political adversaries and his personal animosities. And that's very apparent in those prosecutions. Remember that the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia refused
Mm-hmm.
to bring them
That's
because
right, Eric Siebert.
he thought they were unfounded, and now we're seeing why.
It is truly mind-boggling, all of this. A couple other, I just because I was doing a little deep dive on your background. Robert Reich was also a classmate, and he certainly made a name for himself on social media and talking about what's going on. Have you been in touch with him at all since co-chairing?
I've stayed in touch with
Yeah.
Bob
Uh-huh.
when he was a classmate. He was a good friend,
Uh-huh.
as was, I know you're going to this one, Bill Clinton, also in our
Yes, I
class.
saw that.
So they're both friends. I will call
Mm-hmm.
them friends without being presumptuous. Bob Reich was the Secretary of Labor when Bill Clinton was president.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And so you do have a very auspicious group of people that you went to school with. Um, so okay, let's kind of sort of roll around into another very big important topic. Since you mentioned Bill Clinton, we're going to talk about the Epstein files. And I was just saying as we get started that your name might be the only one in public world not mentioned in the Epstein files. So my goodness, Senator
I had the
Blumenthal.
very good fortune not to have Epstein as one of my acquaintances or
Mm-hmm.
friends, but I will say, as someone who has prosecuted domestic violence and sexual assault and exploitation, human trafficking,
Mm-hmm.
I think the survivors here have been just extraordinary. Their bravery and
Yes.
strength is the reason that we have gone as far as we have in disclosing those names, and they deserve every one of them to be highlighted. The old name and shame, because
Mm-hmm.
there is just absolutely no excuse for this kind of criminality
No.
making victims of young women.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing that hard work and going after sex trafficking, et cetera, et cetera. I am concerned today that the FBI is so focused on ICE or illegal immigration that we are losing track of what's really happening out there in a criminal way in our country. Are you seeing that happen?
I think Americans are beginning to be repulsed by this image of masked, unidentified agents throwing people in unmarked cars and simply the tactics of a police state. We want dangerous people who have criminal backgrounds and convictions to be deported if they
Absolutely.
are undocumented. The idea that we should deport criminals if they're here illegally is a good one. But what's happened is that a lot of American citizens have actually been detained, and some of the undocumented immigrants that have been deported quickly and without any rights are people who've been here for decades, have children
Mm.
here, worked hard, played by the rules, paid taxes.
Paid taxes.
Exactly. And
And
so we're losing talent, and I
mhm.
think it's going to affect our economy. I'm in
Mhm.
favor of border security. Let me be
Mm.
absolutely clear.
Mm.
I think this country unfortunately dropped the ball for some time, and I am in favor of appropriating resources to do better border security with surveillance and
Mhm.
the kind of technology that enables us to stop illegal immigration.
But none of us here in this room is for just forgetting about due process, which is what is happening. Where they are literally ICE agents are going into daycare centers and snatching people and dragging them off and all over, and it's just truly scary. And I'm hoping that the Supreme Court, at least our court system, is going to put checks and balances on this. Speaking of checks and balances, Supreme Court, but they seem to be leaning against tariffs, right? That they're actually sort of standing up for the Constitution finally. How do you feel about that?
Well, first, there is no authority, in
Mm-hmm.
my view, for the president imposing the tariffs that he's done under the statute that he's invoked. The IEPA, as it's
Mm-hmm.
known, that's the acronym, simply doesn't provide him with authority for tariffs. There are other statutes that might on a more limited basis. But what's really important for me is we're seeing prices rise. We're seeing the cost
Yep.
of living spiral out of control. Americans are having to pay more for
Mm-hmm.
electricity, groceries, across the board, air travel, and healthcare. So,
I was going to go there.
uh, so the Supreme Court, judging by the oral argument, is going to tell the president he doesn't have authority under this statute. And then the question is, will he try under another
Mm-hmm.
statute to apply some of these same tariffs? But
Mm-hmm.
on the whole, the net effect has been increased prices, which I think raise this affordability issue, which has been such an important reason why there were victories for the Democrats in New Jersey, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
California, New York,
Right here in Greenwich.
and here in Greenwich.
Hmm. Hmm. It was across the board, and it just made me very happy to see. Um, Not happy that life has gotten more unaffordable at all, but that people are seeing the Democrats as a place to go for who about those who care about things like healthcare costs. And in fact, I happen to be on the exchange myself, so I'm a little scared to look at what it's going to look like on January 1st because it doesn't sound like you guys have made any real progress. John Thune said he would bring it to a vote, but I don't believe anything is getting voted on or certainly won't be done in time. What is happening with the healthcare tax extensions?
I was angry and disappointed that we were faced with a false choice between reopening the government and providing affordable health care. That was the choice forced on us by Republicans. They shut down the government after we refused to vote for a funding package that failed to include extending these health care subsidies. Let's be very clear. These tax credits enable people to afford insurance.
Yep.
You're on the exchange. Open enrollment is ongoing right now. People are hit with sticker shock. Literally, premiums are double and triple.
Yes.
I could give you the, case histories of individual people, but families of four making $90,000 are paying $2,000 more per month for health care insurance. They simply can't afford it. They will go without it. And going without health care insurance means many of them will go without health care. So we need to extend the health care subsidies. It affects thousands of people here in Connecticut, as well as around the country, tens of thousands of people in Connecticut, I should say, millions around the country. And add to this problem the fact that Medicaid has been slashed under the president's great, big, beautiful, blatant betrayal. So I think, we really should have a bipartisan agreement here. And the Senate leader, John Thune, has promised to vote in mid-December. We're going to hold him to that promise. If there is no vote or if there is no extension of the health care tax credits, it will be on Republicans. They'll be to blame. They'll be held accountable.
Okay, so there's even just a kernel of hope still, because I was starting to give up.
More than a kernel of hope.
Okay.
I think there is reason to hope that Republicans, who are right now saying they want to repeal the Affordable Care Act, that's their mantra, repeal and replace, but they have no replacement. They can't agree on anything. And I'm hoping that there'll be enough who will say, let's just extend the health care tax credits because, here's the blunt truth, their political futures are going to be in jeopardy if they don't.
I can't imagine how upset so many people will be when they cannot afford health care. They're going to go to midterms next year, Election Day, and there's going to be a lot of flipping to blue. I believe that.
I think that with good reason, people will look at what's happening to their premiums and they will know with an absolute certainty who is responsible for it. And I really hope that we can reach a bipartisan solution here, whether it's an extension for a shorter term that I would like. Compromise is not a four-letter word. We have to compromise to get stuff done. We need bipartisan solutions. I work with my Republican colleagues on internet safety for kids, the Kids Online Safety Act with Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, protecting people against the excesses and abuses of artificial intelligence. Josh Hawley of Missouri and I have formed a team. I try to reach out every day to Republicans. And here's one where the American people really expect rightly for us to try to get the job done.
We've got to get this organized and figured out. And we've got a lot of very smart people in our country, and I can't figure out why we can't solve this problem. I mean, our healthcare system is in shambles. There's some incredible doctors, incredible places to go. We live in one of the best areas in the country right here between Greenwich, Stanford, et cetera. Some of the best healthcare is right here. It's in Boston. We have certain areas, and I can't understand why we just can't solve this problem.
I'm the ranking member on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and we have a great facility in West Haven, which is at risk because the current secretary of the Veterans Administration is dismantling a lot of our veterans' health care system.
Unbelievable.
But we are rebuilding it, and that kind of health care, it's the gold standard. We owe it to our veterans. we need to sustain and enhance throughout Connecticut, and in fact, the country.
That's really important. And I also want to thank you for your service. You were in the Marine Corps Reserves, I believe, 6 years. You attained the rank of sergeant. Thank you,
Thank
Senator
you.
Blumenthal.
I have
Really.
two sons who have served as well. Matthew, who was Marine
Mm.
Corps officer in Afghanistan, and Michael, who was a Navy SEAL. So
Wow, I actually didn't
uh,
know that. That is incredible.
when you mention service, they take precedent over me.
You still did it. Plus the rest of all these years of serving your people, our people, we're all here. So let's see. Sort of moving on to Venezuelan boats and
Yeah.
executive orders and how far they can go with this. And then that kind of loops us back into the problem with Mark Kelly and his getting Senator Mark Kelly and getting investigated by the DOJ. So we have a problem. We've been blowing up these boats. I believe we've killed something like close to 100 people extrajudicially. The administration, I believe, has 60 days to notify you, right? The Senate and the Congress. Um, and they haven't. So where are we at here?
The administration is continuing to destroy these boats, which are in international waters, without apparently knowing for sure who is actually on them, what they're carrying, where they're headed. They definitely, almost certainly, don't have fentanyl because the route for fentanyl is mostly from Mexico to the United States. The route
Mm,
for cocaine is from Venezuela and Colombia, so maybe they have cocaine. But the main point here is that you use the word extrajudicially, they are killing people for transporting an illicit substance, not as law enforcement, which is typically the way it's done. The
law
Coast Guard
enforcement.
interdicts these vessels. People are arrested, they're prosecuted. They're just killing them without even a
Mm-hmm.
scintilla of public evidence that they are violating the law. I will tell you that there's a classified memo from the Office of Legal Counsel in the Department of Justice, which is supposed to justify these actions. I
Mm. Hmm.
finally had access to it last week after
Hmm.
the administration delayed disclosing it to members of the Senate. And I can tell you, without going into what it says, that I am dissatisfied and disappointed. And
Mm.
so we have asked a group of us on the Armed Services Committee, I serve on the Armed Services Committee, for the administration to disclose, that is, declassify the memo, so the American
I
people can
see.
judge for themselves.
I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see it. So I am assuming that sort of social media, that Senator Mark Kelly and other senators and representatives, right, put up last week, urging anybody in the military that they do not need to follow illegal orders. Is that right? That
That
is
was the memo,
that was
or the video
the
that they did.
video. Yeah. So that is the reason why I understand he's now getting investigated because that did not please Trump.
The Secretary of Defense,
Hmm.
Pete Hegseth, has announced that there's going to be an investigation of Mark Kelly, which is the only member of that group that potentially the Defense Department has jurisdiction over because
Oh.
he's a retired commander or captain
Hmm.
in the Navy. And you're absolutely right. The video essentially had each of them saying different parts of the same message, that members of the military have no obligation to obey an illegal order. In fact, the principle of the Uniform Code of Military Justice is that you have an obligation to disobey
Mm.
an illegal order.
Hmm.
If your commanding officer tells you to torture someone or shoot a prisoner of war in the back of his head,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
kind of illegal order, potentially, you could argue, should be disobeyed. So that's what they were talking about. I haven't seen anything public about what exactly the investigation concerns.
Interesting. It's just a never ending sort of pile of wow, that's actually happening now in our country. Um, Makes me a little crazy, to be honest. But you're getting there, and you're doing the hard work, making sure that we just don't go completely down the drain. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. And what are your thoughts about the future of our party? So we saw a lot of wins just in this past election day, a lot of municipal, but also New Jersey, Virginia. We had pretty much everywhere, down to dog catchers were getting elected. Democrats are getting elected. Mamdani, of course, is a big name right now. How do you think he folds into the future of our party, and where do you think we're going?
Well, uh, Mikey Sherrill,
Mm-hmm.
uh, as well as others, I think are the face of our future, along with Mamdani. He is certainly a source of a lot of energy
Mm-hmm.
and inspiration. I can't say I agree with him on
Uh-huh.
everything, but I think part of the future of our party is that we have to embrace diversity in viewpoint, in background, in race,
I
in
like it.
religion,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the excitement and energy coming from these last elections, the diversity. And I think we'll come together in 2026 and then in 2028 because I think we know what the stakes are. And very encouraging to me is that we have rejected despair and
Oh, I
defeatism.
love that.
I've been to the
Mm.
Indivisible rallies. I have to
Mm-hmm.
give a great big shout out to Indivisible
Mm-hmm.
that
Amazing
has
group.
brought us together in so many
Mm-hmm.
rallies. I don't know how many I've been, 10, 20 over the course of the last months, all around the state of Connecticut. And there is such energy and determination there. I am in awe, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
sort of propelled the
Mm-hmm.
results, the
Mm-hmm.
turnout. Look at the turnout in these last elections for the Democratic Party.
Incredible. And I love that. Just just put that despair aside and reignite hope here. And I do believe that's what we saw, and it does make me feel so much better. And yes, I do believe Mamdani does bring a great deal of energy, and certainly has brought this next younger generation, into the fold, which is great, based on affordability, which makes all the sense in the world, right? You could be making $125,000 a year in New York City and still really not afford to live there.
Affordability was the issue in New York.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was the issue in Virginia. It was the issue in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It is the issue across the country. It's what unites Americans. They can't afford to do things they want to do, whether it's raising a family or simply going to a sports event.
Mm-hmm.
The middle class life has become inaccessible to a lot of people, and what we see is the divides increasing between those billionaires and
Mm-hmm.
you know Trump fought for more tax cuts for the billionaires. Let's keep in mind where his priorities are.
Yep.
Even if you put aside all the
Mm-hmm.
explosive rhetoric and the violent talk that he seems to generate, look at the policies, tariffs, tax
Mm-hmm.
cuts for the
Mm-hmm.
billionaires. It works against the middle class. And I think people are too smart for him to confuse them.
I think people are getting very fed up with that story. It is really frustrating. We only have a couple minutes left. There's just a couple data points I want to point out. You, Dick Blumenthal, Senator Blumenthal, sitting next to me, actually walked in I think it was a St. Patrick's Day parade. Somehow or other you fell and you broke your leg, and you kept going. He got up and walked to the end of
Well,
that
actually,
parade.
actually, here's what happened. I was in the victory parade for the Yukon basketball team
Ah, okay.
in 2023, and I was marching next to the governor and other
Uh-huh,
public officials, and
uh-huh,
behind us were one of their staff
uh-huh.
marching backwards because he was filming,
Oh, I get it. I
and
see.
the parade stopped, but he kept going. He tripped on the back of my foot, knocked me down, and I was helped back up, and I'd never broken anything before, so I figured it was a bad sprain. I finished the parade, but I had a broken femur. I had surgery the next day, 3 pins put in my leg. Fully recovered. If I were standing now,
Oh,
I'd jump up and
yeah.
down to show you. And I'm back to doing everything I was before and in exercising every day, and it's what keeps me sane. But I do not recommend breaking a leg. And
Getting up and
I
walking.
joked with the coach, Dan
Uh-huh.
Hurley,
Oh, Dan Hurley.
and
Okay.
some of the players, because when they then were playing in the championships a
Uh-huh.
year later,
Uh-huh.
I called him and I said, if it's helping you, I will break my leg again.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he was saying, no, please.
No more broken legs. We got that. All right, we only have about a minute left. I just have to tell everybody this is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. It's been an absolute honor to be here just before Thanksgiving Day with Senator Dick Blumenthal, and just such an appreciation for all the service, all the good things. And one sort of, you saved a man on death row. I guess you challenged the death penalty. Here in Connecticut, he had 15 hours before you got a stay for his execution. So you've done some really good work in your life.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your kind words and it means a lot and look forward to continuing to serve the people of Connecticut.
So, your plans. What are you going to do in the future? What are you thinking?
I love my job. I'm going to continue doing it. Just one
Hmm.
thing about the death row inmate. He
Uh-huh.
was in Florida,
Oh, he was in Florida. Okay.
and I was his lawyer,
Okay.
asked by the NAACP to represent him because he had been un- really
Unwrongfully.
tragically, unlawfully convicted. He
God.
proved to be absolutely innocent of the crime. So it was an important moment, even though as a
Yeah.
prosecutor, I have
Mhm.
sought and received verdicts that have put people behind bars. I've never prosecuted anyone for the death penalty, but I presided over death penalties when they were imposed in
Mhm.
Connecticut and when I was Attorney General. So I'm not against the death penalty, but in this
Mhm.
instance, he was innocent.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show, Senator Blumenthal. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
And everybody out there, be safe, be happy, and eat lots and lots of turkey. And we'll be back next week.